Hey, it's Catherine Franke. It's June 2nd. And, this is like my 6-month anniversary of leaving Columbia or being asked to leave by Columbia. And so I haven't been talking about Columbia quite as much as I was earlier on, but this has been an exceptionally bad week for Columbia University. And so I just wanted to take a second to run through the just tsunami of bad stuff that just makes you think, who is running their general counsel's office? Some of these things are things that are about the Trump administration just targeting Columbia and using Columbia as an example. But a lot of it is unforced errors. It's Columbia's strategy of collaborating with a bully. And when you do that, the bully just keeps coming for you. And this week, the university took quite a beating. So just this week, the IT system at Columbia University was hacked and shut down. You couldn't get on the websites of Columbia. These hacktivists, whoever they were, actually were able to get into the system so that pictures of Donald Trump showed up on monitors in buildings at Columbia. And then we learned that that these folks were able to kind of lurk inside Columbia's servers for a couple of months, collecting, harvesting data, admissions data, which we presume they'll try to use to show that Columbia is engaging in some sort of unconstitutional diversity or affirmative action-based admissions. But they also got the Social Security numbers and home addresses and identifying information of Columbia staff and faculty and our partners and families. So, Columbia hasn't really said anything to us about, hey, guess what? They've got your Social Security number. You kind of think they might, but they haven't. So that's thing one. Thing two is Columbia just the other day announced the settlement of a lawsuit that was brought against the university for mischaracterizations in class size and the degrees, the kind of PhDs, masters, etc., that faculty have in their reporting to U.S. News and World Reports that does those school rankings. So this was divulged several years ago based on work of one of our colleagues in the math department at Columbia, that Columbia had been fudging its numbers and kind of boosting its ranking. And so a bunch of students sued Columbia saying basically you engaged in false advertising, fraudulent advertising that lured me into paying your incredibly high tuition. And we should get a tuition rebate because we didn't get what we thought we were going to get in terms of class size and at least the credentials of some of the faculty. So they just settled that lawsuit for $9 million. Kind of an unforced error there, I would say. And then just the other day, the university was notified by the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, which is the organization that issues accreditation for colleges, universities, higher education institutions, that they were kind of putting Columbia on a kind of hold while they wanted more information from Columbia about how it was basically complying with federal non-discrimination statutes. Now, the Trump administration had put out a very strong call to this group, the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, earlier in June, saying, you should look into Columbia, you should warn them, you should take some kind of action against Columbia for the degree to which it's maintaining a educational environment that is unfriendly or harassing or hostile to Jewish students. And they did it. And this is quite phenomenal because the review otherwise by this accrediting organization was very positive. So they've bent to the will of the Trump administration and have kind of put Columbia on probation. And if Columbia lost its accreditation, students couldn't get loans. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that would be cataclysmic for Columbia besides all the other things that have happened. Lastly, yesterday, July 1st, a letter went out from the Committee on Education and the Workforce demanding that Claire Shipman, the acting president of the university, answer a bunch of questions based on texts, WhatsApp texts that were released to the committee as part of the committee's request for ongoing all communications on anything having to do with, pretty much almost anything. Those texts are supposed to stay confidential with the committee, but not anymore. And so the committee issued this letter saying, Shipman, you got to explain why you were texting these things. They're quite damning, I must say, what was in these texts. So among the things that she is accused of saying is we need to get somebody from the Middle East or who is Arab on our board quickly, I think. Now, that's probably something you don't want to put in writing, although diversity on board is an extremely good thing. But that's a bit of a problem to be saying that in writing. She also said, or expressed in these texts, real dislike for Shoshana Shendelman, who is a member of the board, who has been a very, very advocate, very strong advocate and Zionist, but advocate for the state of Israel. Shipman, in a text from April of last year, says to another board member, I think we have to be aware of Shoshana. I think we should be mindful that anything we say could be passed on by Shoshana. The other board member says, do you believe that she's a mole, a fox in the henhouse? To which Shipman responds, I do. The other board member then says, I don't know why we have to continue to tolerate her. She's driven me nuts since last fall. She's gone from disrespectful to dangerous. I am so sorry. I am tired of her. To which Shipman replies, so tired. So one of the ways in which this is both a problem of the Trump administration and its friends in Congress going after Colombia, but also an unforced error, is these committees in Congress, even from before Trump coming into office, during Biden as well, have issued these letters making accusations about anti-Semitism, demanding that the university produce documents, and making all sorts of threats. But the university could have said, we will only respond to a subpoena, right? These letters, these demands by letter form are not enforceable. But Columbia from the very beginning decided that it will just voluntarily produce all sorts of data on students, text messages, letters, all sorts of communications between trustees and between top administrators, rather than wait and have a court order them to do so. So Columbia provided these texts to this committee, a committee that has been over and over again hostile to Columbia, and no big surprise, the committee produced them. So, this is from before Shipman was acting president. At the time, she was the co-chair of the Board of Trustees. She never should have put this stuff in writing, so that's mistake number one. But mistake number two, I think, is that the university should stop handing over this information and giving ammunition to the federal government, whether it's the Trump administration or Congress, and go through an appropriate legal process. Make them issue a subpoena to do so. So bad week for Columbia, having to pay out $9 million in a settlement on top of the almost $1 billion that has gone into the settlement of the Robert Haddon cases. You might recall he was the gynecologist at the medical school who for years sexually assaulted his patients, his female patients, and Columbia really didn't do anything about it even when they'd been notified. So there were lawsuits brought, and the university settled that lawsuit, creating a huge fund to pay out damages to the victims of Dr. Haddon. So we've got that the university is servicing, unforced error, $9 million for the U.S. News and World Report, mischaracterizations, unforced error. IT system, I don't know, I guess we could have better security. And then the way that it's been handling its collaboration with the Trump administration by handing it over, basically, the documents that then get used against Columbia. Just shocking strategy. And I think this advice is coming from the General Counsel's office and from some members of the Board of Trustees, and it is just bad advice.